From Hoochie's Dollar Store, it's the IGN Digigods. Please welcome two folks who don't got no reason to kill nobody, Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
And we are back with new intros. We finally got the new intros recorded. Thank you. And Corey, that first new intro, to whom do we owe the grace?
That was brought to you by Alexander Berlika.
There we go. Starting off a good one with our longtime listener, good friend Alexander Berlika. Alexander, big shout out to you in Belarus. You have started us off with, we got those like a year ago. Everybody sent them in, and we haven't been able to coordinate with Corey because...
You know what?
We all have ridiculous schedules.
There is no excuse to say we got these a year ago.
Well, look, bottom line. Corey has a very difficult schedule. Until recently, had a very difficult schedule. I have a baby.
I have nothing going on.
You have some strange job that obligates... Honestly, here in the last week and a half...
Yes, ma'am.
You have been in New York, you've been celebrating Passover, doing the whole thing, right?
Yes.
And you come back and they make you work on Good Friday. Because you're Jewish? What's the deal with that?
How does that explain why it took us a year to record new intros?
Because we have strange schedules. That's all I'm saying. Well, what a fantastic show today. Seriously, this is one of those shows where I'm like, we're not vamping, we're not going blah, 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 blah. This is fantastic. Great, amazing stuff. We got a Stephen Frears interview.
We have Stephen Frears.
Stephen freaking Frears.
A couple of movies Stephen Frears has directed to go.
And the Queen, Sammy and Rosie Got Laid, Dangerous Liaisons, on and on and on and on.
Okay, the guy who directed
Mrs. Henderson Presents, on and on. He's doing the new Lance Armstrong film, which did not make the final selection at Cannes. Nobody quite knows why, but he's finishing it. It's not done. So
the guy who directed the Queen was interviewed by us.
Let me say this. I talked to him for about 10 minutes. We'll throw it up on the show later on when we talk about Philomena, which of course is why we're talking to him. It was by phone. He's in the UK. He's working on the Lance Armstrong film. He's finishing it up. And I have to say, knowing what Frears is like, I went into this thing completely and unabashedly intimidated. Because, he's a no-nonsense guy, right? Frears is like, and you're going to hear this in the interview, it's just me treading water trying to get through this thing. Because Frears, he just treats it like a job. He's a blue-collar guy, he's a working-class guy, making movies is his job. He goes in, it's a 9-to-5 thing for him, and he just does it, or 9-to-9 thing in movie language. And he does his thing, and he doesn't like to talk about it, and he hates the whole press thing, and he hates all the glam, and he's very dry, and he's very acerbic. And I'm thinking, you know what? I am the 97th guy that he is going to be talking to this morning, and despite my best efforts, I'm still going to ask him the same 75 questions that everyone else has been asking him,
Indeed,
or at least a third of them. And he's just going to be really short, and he's going to give me those blunt Nick Nolte answers. And I just got to get out of this thing alive. That's all I was thinking. And then it's kind of a poor connection with the UK as well, so there's a few dropouts. But you know what? I got out of it alive. I didn't piss him off. I even made him laugh once. So, hey.
He's awesome.
What more can you ask for? I talked to Stephen Frears.
You did talk to Stephen.
I talked to Stephen Frears, and the good thing is it was by phone. So when he sees me again in person, he won't ever remember this, and he won't punch me.
This, by the way, is one of our best shows ever. Not only are we interviewing the director of The Queen,
yes,
and Philomena,
yes,
we also have two classics.
Oh my gosh!
And including one of my favorite films of all time. We also have a William Friedkin film that is way long overdue on Blu-ray.
This is a fantastic week, and it's a good week for me to because next week I'm slammed. I got film week. I'm to the wall next week. The next show is going to be lame. I'll tell you that right now because I got because I got it's Kolkoa week, right? So
Kolkoa being
the City of Light, City of Angels festival. So I'm not on the jury this year. Thank goodness. Our friend Tim is on the jury, where he's going to have to watch 26 movies in about 10 days.
It's true, literally 26 movies in 10 days.
It is. It's like 26 movies in 10 days, and I've done that 3 times previously. Don't want to do it again. But I do have to watch some Cedric Klapisch movies, and because I'm moderating an interview with Cedric Klapisch next week.
Who the hell is Cedric Klapisch?
The friggin' French director, man. Come on,
lame.
Dude, he's great. Klapisch is the man. Klapisch. Cedric Klapisch.
That's great. Okay, wait. Before you start, I need to do this.
What do you have to do?
I'm going to season a cast iron pan
with Wesson oil.
No, canola oil.
Okay, but it's Wesson. You buy Wesson canola oil?
Whatever, who cares? Wait, don't tell me I'm sure you buy some $50 a pint.
No, I go to
oil.
I go to Costco and I get like a gallon of it for like half the price that you paid, for 32 ounces of Wesson.
So I'm going to season this cast iron pan by putting a little dollop into the pan, swirling it around.
Yes, that's right.
With this,
Yes.
and then I'm going to put it into the oven upside down at about 200 degrees, and let it sit there for maybe 45 minutes.
All right. I don't actually. When I season it, I just put it back in the. I don't even put it in the oven.
Really?
No. I just wipe the oil around and let it sit there.
Go talk about movies.
And I wipe it around with my fingers. First I'm going to make mention of some books. We got some books, new books out, movie books. No, I have not read all of them cover to cover. Give them a little cursory look, little glance, little bit of looking in this and so forth. Pretty great book here. Dan Callahan's Vanessa, A Life of Vanessa Redgrave. Now, of course, Vanessa Redgrave is still alive, so it doesn't end on a downer. And it's pretty good. I mean, it's not a warts and all totality of her life biography, but it because there's a lot of stuff with the the whole political thing, Israel and Palestine and all that stuff that gets a little dodgy. But this is the first biography that's ever been published of Vanessa Redgrave, and it's lovely. I mean, from a movie standpoint, from just a fan standpoint, it certainly does. Immerse you in why she's a legend and why the Redgraves are such an amazing family. Father Michael Redgrave and obviously all of her daughters, and it's good. So this is an advanced copy that was sent to us, and I read about a chapter and a half and thoroughly enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to reading the entire thing. Then we also have the Grand Budapest Hotel screenplay by Wes Anderson.
I love this movie.
And you can actually get an interactive version of this, I believe, as an ebook. But this is just the straight-up screenplay, not in screenplay format, I'm sorry to say. It's in the kind of, the reformatted, easy-read version with, times and italics, fonts and stuff. But I read a little bit of it. I have not yet seen the movie, I should point out.
The movie's great.
I know, I hear the movie's fantastic. So I read a little bit of it, just enough to give me a flavor of it. And it looks terrific. I mean, it's a fun script. Really fun script, and has some sketches at the end, costume sketches, character sketches. Really, that's pretty cool if you're a Wes Anderson fan. And then this is just to die for. The Art of the Wind Rises, the Miyazaki film from last year. This is a coffee table book, hardcover, absolutely fantastic. Mark, check this out. Look at this.
It's beautiful. It's a terrific film.
It's just gorgeous. I mean, It's a wonderful film. And, if you just want a beautiful coffee table book, just with look at the artwork. Look at that. I mean, seriously, this is incredible.
It's a very well-designed book.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Well, what's it called again?
The Art of the Wind Rises. It's just fantastic. I mean, it's a lovely, lovely book, beautifully put together, and it's not just sort of a look at Miyazaki and why he's such a great animator, but it really is. It's just from an art standpoint, it's amazing. And then you have a bunch of look at this, all these one sheets here. Look at the one sheet art.
Beautiful.
It's fantastic.
Beautiful.
It's fantastic.
I mean, when you look at a frame of a Miyazaki film, you know you're looking at a Miyazaki film.
True. Because it's not like any other anime.
Right.
It has like a warmth to it, and it has an elegance to it, and there's kind of a soulfulness, right?
Absolutely.
There's something different, So, all right, Mark, I'm going to start off on some television here,
okay.
And
do the television. That's fine. I'm letting people know that soon we'll be talking about great movies.
We'll be talking about amazing movies. Yes.
Not a bunch of TV crap.
We're getting the TV out of the way first.
So you don't put this in the oven? You just now this is a Le Creuset enameled cast iron pan.
Yes.
You do not put this in the oven.
I don't have Le Creuset. We use Staub or Stobe, depending on how you pronounce it, Staub, which is better than Le Creuset.
Blah blah blah.
So there.
Yeah, you know why? No, it's not better. It's just more expensive. That's why you like it.
It's different. It's made in France.
Okay, so the question being, so is it enameled cast iron?
Yes, it is. It's enameled. It's the other one. It's the competing brand. They're essentially synonymous.
Do you season it?
Yes.
How do you season it?
I just get a little bit of Costco canola oil, and I put a little dollop in there, and then I wipe it around with my fingers, and I just smooth it around with my fingers.
And that's it.
Get it there, get it really nice, and then if there's any excess, I kind of wipe it up so it's not sort of drippy, and then I just put it away.
So you don't put it in the oven?
No.
Wow. Controversial.
Yeah. So there you go. First off, from the Warner Archive collection is The Class, the complete series, a series that for some reason, I completely had never heard of. Totally missed this. 2006, 2007. You familiar with this, Mark?
Say again?
The Class? The complete series? The Class?
No.
You anyway familiar with
I
it?
have not heard of it. So,
well, anyway, it's David Crane and Jeffrey Clarick, who created, respectively, Friends and Mad About You, no slouches. They created this, and it's it's interesting. You can tell that this is something that might work if it had better cast chemistry. It's not that the cast is bad. I mean, they're some good actors here, but I don't know. Like Jason Ritter's in here, and John Bernthal, but from The Walking Dead. But it's like, I don't know. For some reason, it just doesn't click. And maybe if this had been on for 3, 4, 5 more seasons, it would have clicked. But I don't know. It just didn't hit me. It doesn't have that frenzy thing that I think everybody was hoping for. But anyway, so that's out there. And then Mark, vintage television. Joanie Loves Chachi.
That is awesome.
Right?
Yes.
Complete series. The complete series, seasons 1 and 2. Because it only lasted 2 seasons. And it's kind of sad because that romance went on forever on Happy Days, and they grow up on the show, and then they got their own show, and nobody wanted to watch it. And then didn't Erin Moran, her life completely disintegrated?
She became. I think she lost her home when she was living in a trailer park or something like that.
It's the worst. It's so sad. And Scott Baio went on.
He works. He does stuff occasionally.
He's got. Didn't he have a reality show there?
He had a reality show about how he was 50 years old and single. And
yeah. Well, anyway, I have to say one of my all-time favorite memories of life was being at Battle of the Network Stars and being 4 feet away when Scott Baio did the softball dunk, and he dunked Heather Thomas and Heather Locklear right before my eyes. It was like, I don't know. It was just one of those rare experiences. It was like an out-of-body experience.
That's not what I like to do to those two women right before my eyes. I like to see them do other things. At least back then. Today they're 60 years old and forget it.
But that being said, Joanie Loves Chachi, it's not a bad show, honestly. Watching it again, it's not terrible. I mean, it's not that funny. I mean, the problem is that you want a sitcom to be funny. And they weren't exactly the funny people on Happy Days. I mean, they had their funny moments, but it was like they were part of an ensemble. And you extract the least funny part of an ensemble and give them their own show, suddenly it doesn't quite work. That's why, Sanford and Son was hysterical with Grady, but you give Grady his own show, Grady's not funny for 30 straight minutes. Grady's funny when he walks in for like 5 minutes, you know what I mean? So
Grady's awesome.
Yeah, well,
Well, Wade, season 3 of Newhart, speaking of old shows, that's out. Now, Newhart was a fun show. I did not like it as much as the original Bob Newhart show in the 70s. This thing lasted for 8 seasons, Wade. 8 seasons of the Newhart show.
I know.
And, you can tell season 3 they were already starting to run out of ideas because at the end of season 2, if you remember, Bob Newhart starts hosting a public access TV show, and they spilled that into season 3, and it just seemed like just a conduit for easy jokes about television and public access. So already, to me, the show was already kind of starting to tread water. Not my favorite, but it did, however, include the greatest finale in the history of television. Everyone talks about how everyone talks about how the Dexter finale was terrible and the How I Met Your Mother finale was terrible. The Newhart finale, the best.
So brilliant. It really was.
But we're still like 5 seasons away.
It's so brilliant. It was the best.
Charlie Sheen, Anger Management. Now, this seemed like casting Coup Made in Heaven. Charlie Sheen in a show called Anger Management for FX. This show is lame. And I think 2.5 Men is lame, and you love 2.5 Men.
Well,
now, this show got a very quick pickup. This show got a very quick pickup. It was kind of famous at the time because it did pretty well out of the gate, so they picked it up for like 96 episodes. For like a cut rate price. And people wondered why they would pick up a show for like 96 episodes for pretty much for a song. Mm-hmm. And the reason is because the show was, if you do 96 in one big shot, you can take all those episodes and sell them overseas to dozens of different territories, and everybody gets incredibly wealthy if you can just crank out 96 episodes for a fire sale price in a short period of time. And that's what happened.
Yep.
So now we have Anger Management season volume 3, where Charlie does his Charlie Sheen thing. I just don't get it. It's just not my thing.
Well, the movie Anger Management was so outstanding, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course. So anyway, Farscape has been out before from A&E Home Video previously. It is now part of Cinedigm's library. So Cinedigm, of course, is releasing the whole thing all over again on DVD and Blu-ray. Got the 15th anniversary release of the season 4 here, and 22 episodes. This show ages fine. I was never a huge Farscape fan. I have friends who worship this and can quote from it endlessly and think it's like the greatest science fiction series of all time and totally underrated. And I completely understand why they believe that. And, keep fighting the good fight. Just fight for it. Someday Farscape will become the Star Trek of the future. In the future, actually, when Star Trek becomes a reality, they will probably be Farscape fans. And then we also have Carol Burnett's show, of course, is out in its totality, but for people who don't want to actually own the entire Carol Burnett show, they have these little collections, greatest hits compilations. And this is the Carol Burnett show, Carol's Crack-Ups. This is 17 new unedited episodes on 6 DVDs and a ton of bonus features. And it's all great, man. It's just fantastic. Tim Conway's funny, and Vicki Lawrence is hilarious, and Harvey Korman cracks up and screws everything up constantly, and this is great. So these are the episodes precisely as they originally aired on television, totally uncut, and it's great.
Carol Burnett show is one of the reasons why I decided to work in TV.
Really?
The two shows that really made me want to work in TV were Carol Burnett and Mary Tyler Moore.
Wow, both women.
I know, and
wow.
which is amazing because I'm such a misogynist.
My goodness. And then The Practice, the final season, is out for the first time. James Spader, not aging well, but somehow he's adapting to each new phase of the thing that he does. It's like
the guy's going to be starring as the villain in the sequel to the third highest grossing film of all time.
It's amazing. But I mean, you look at him now in the Blacklist, right? The Blacklist, that's what it's called, right?
Huh? That people love that show.
I know. Well,
that is a unqualified hit for NBC.
But he's like weird and creepy.
God love him.
He's weird and creepy in it. The Practice was a good show. One of the 79 shows that David E. Kelley had on at the same time before he completely burned out. And, this segued into Boston Legal, and which was complete change of pace. Don't you think that the way that this turned into Boston Legal is a little bit of the reverse of the way that the Mary Tyler Moore show segued into Lou Grant?
You loved Boston Legal. Why did you love that show so much?
It's just so freaking hilarious. Denny Crane, man, come on.
Yeah,
William Shatner's the only guy who's ever been able to reinvent himself as a television icon twice.
Really
and if you consider the character that he does on the Priceline commercials, he's done it 3 times.
He really is the best.
I mean, it's amazing. And then right before we get into all the amazing movies that we have to talk about.
So
many good movies. Mr. Magoo, the theatrical collection, 1949 and 1959, 4 discs, 53 theatrical shorts, as well as the 1001 Arabian Nights feature film, full-length theatrical feature film, and a ton of extras. And I love Mr. Magoo. Cannot get enough of Mr. Magoo. Jim Backus, there's a guy who reinvented himself as well. He's not only the voice of Mr. Magoo, he's freaking Gilligan's Island. Mr. Thurston Howell the third.
The best.
Yeah, so great stuff. You get interviews and commentaries and stills, and it's really, really great. Really, really great. Some television specials on here. There's just no end to how fun Mr. Magoo is. And the animation, in hindsight, is really quite good. It's very, very fun. So it's very 1950s. Can't you just totally tell shorts that come from the 1950s versus the 40s versus the 30s versus the 70s? The styles change. It's just unmistakable.
Yes, Wade.
It is. It's unmistakable.
It's unmistakable.
Fantastic.
So what you're saying is it's unmistakable.
Unmistakable. All right, Mark. We're not going to get into the new movies yet. We'll get into the new movies later because we got the Stephen Frears interview there. But I'm going to talk for just a moment. I'll let you get to it. I'm going to talk for just a moment about something that our fans have been waiting for a very long time. Everyone has been waiting a very long time for William Friedkin's Sorcerer. Okay?
This is big, Wade.
Huge. Absolutely fantastic.
Not kidding.
And Sorcerer, of course, is a remake of The Wages of Fear, which itself is a masterpiece.
The Clouseau film.
The Clouseau film, this is one of those rare cases where a remake of a masterpiece becomes, in its own way, a completely different kind of a masterpiece. And you know what? Sorcerer is just an unbelievable. This is a blankety blanker of a movie. This is a blank kicker. I mean, if this were not a family show, I would be filling up my daughter's swear jar left and right. This is just, it's such an intense, awesome film, and Friedkin just nails it. It in many respects, I almost think this is a better directed film than The Exorcist or French Connection.
Really?
I do. I just
Very
think this
intense.
is, I think he just cranks it. The Tangerine Dream music, it's the one and only time that Tangerine Dream, maybe if you, Risky Business, but certainly this is the best score that they ever did. I mean, it really, really just kills it. And it is a gorgeous, gorgeous Blu-ray book. The classic Blu-ray book style that Warner Brothers pioneered. This, of course, is Universal. And it's gorgeous. 121 minutes of just fantastic, intense, just gripping, riveting Roy Scheider. Gosh, it's just intense. It's just so good. Truck hauling nitroglycerin. Give me a break. What a great premise. Gosh, I just can't get enough. Anyway, here's the thing about Sorcerer. Sorcerer was a failure theatrically. This film's reputation is entirely after the fact. This is one of those movies like 2001 that was a failure initially and then kind of grew and became this thing, and it just developed a life of its own. The reason being, do you know why it failed?
Because it came out the same week as
Star Wars. I mean, dumb luck that.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
But also, I think also part of the reason why was because it wasn't as readily available to see.
True.
I mean, 2001, it was on TV, and it was on Laserdisc and Blu-ray and DVD and VHS and all that sort of stuff. Where Sorcerer was sort of like this film you had to seek out.
And look, anyone who's seen it in a revival print, it looks horrible. I mean, the prints that have been circulating are terrible. What they've done here is just pristine. This is the movie as it was meant to be seen. It's gorgeous. You have to own it. This is one of those must-own Blu-rays. You got to have it on your shelf. No question.
Yep.
Done. Over.
Love it.
There it is.
Wait, can I tell you something?
Yes.
One of my all-time favorite films. It's on Blu-ray.
Yes.
You are going to give me this, aren't you?
Nope.
God damn it.
Nope.
Double Indemnity.
That's right.
1944, the quintessential noir.
The sequel to Single Indemnity. A lot of people don't know that.
And the prequel to Triple Indemnity.
That's right. A lot of people don't know that either.
Actually, it was Double Indemnity 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yep.
Anyway, directed by Billy Wilder. This is based on the James Cain novella. And this is not only the quintessential noir, but actually one of the quintessential films about Los Angeles. I remember the 75th time I saw this movie, they screened it. Here in Los Angeles, there's a cemetery called the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. And in the summertime, they will let people into the cemetery. They will take their blankets, and they'll go to the supermarket and get potato chips and dip. And you'll sit on the cemetery grounds, and they'll project a film onto the mausoleum wall.
Yes.
And I went to a bunch of them before they became too popular. And then I couldn't get in anymore. I didn't want to wait in line. Anyway, one of the last ones I saw was Double Indemnity. And there's a scene in Double Indemnity, it was part of the voiceover, Fred MacMurray's voiceover, where he talks about the sumptuous home that Barbara Stanwyck lives. And I don't remember the exact line, although I've seen the movie 1,000 times. But it was something like, the house was so expensive, he paid like $5,000 for it. That's how expensive the house was. And got a big laugh from the audience. At the cemetery, Wade couldn't care less. What I'm saying is that Double Indemnity is the best. It is a film that I can watch over and over again like The Godfather.
It's great.
And what's amazing is that of everybody in this film, Edward G. Robinson, Barbara Stanwyck, the casting that always stood out was Fred MacMurray. Because Fred MacMurray had not done a film like this.
True.
And Billy Wilder
That's
had asked everybody in Hollywood to do this movie.
It's true.
And MacMurray was like the bottom of the barrel. But in the way, he was perfect because you feel that he could be duped.
Yep.
He came across as a bit of a doofusy actor to me. But putting him in this film worked because you felt like Barbara Stanwyck can fool him.
Yep.
So I bought it, and we all bought it because it's a classic. So this is just fantastic. I don't know where they got the print, but it's been digitally remastered, totally restored. There's 2 feature commentaries, both old. One is with Richard Schickel, and the other's with Lem Dobbs, who is a screenwriter, does a lot of Soderbergh stuff. Mm-hmm. And there's also there's the Dublin. Okay, this was a waste of bit space, but they do include the made-for-television movie based on the film from 1973, called Double Indemnity, which is a total waste of time.
Yeah, it's terrible.
But who cares? Because it's Double Indemnity, Blu-ray, 70th anniversary. Why are you listening to this podcast? You should be buying it now.
Yes.
This moment.
Absolutely.
And there's another film, another one of my all-time favorite films.
These two are being released basically as a tandem, as a universal tandem.
Let me tell you something, Wade.
Yeah.
Touch of Evil.
You know what? Best performance of a Mexican by Charlton Heston ever. Yeah.
It's from 1958.
Of all the Mexicans that he's ever performed in his life, that's the best one.
It's true. It's from 1958. This is Orson Welles' last good film. What?
Well, it's sort of his last actually completed film.
I know. It's the last film where you thought that it's the film he wanted to make.
Yeah. Where people weren't pulling the rug out from under him every 10 minutes, yeah.
So this is Charlton Heston, Janet Leigh, and Orson Welles. It also contains one of the great opening shots of all time.
It really is.
Over 3 minutes, tracking shot. It's unbelievable, and it's a great film.
Yep.
Is Charlton Heston miscast? I mean, yes, but now it's just part of the.
It's part of the landscape.
Landscape
it's just
of the
part
film.
It is. It's we can't imagine the film without it.
It's true.
It is. It's a thing.
So this is great. There's 3 versions of the film on this Blu-ray. There's the reconstructed version, which was re-edited in 1988, and it's considered the definitive cut because it's based on Welles's 58-page memo to the studio. Now, the 58-page memo that Orson Welles wrote to the studio is pretty famous.
It is very famous.
Because the studio, of course, recut his film, like they always do. Orson Welles wrote a 58-page memo outlining what he wanted to see in the film, which, of course, the studio said go to hell.
Yep.
And they released the cut that they released. Still a classic.
Totally.
But on the DVD, on the Blu-ray, you get
the reconstructed.
You get the
Welles
reconstructed Welles cut.
Yep.
Not recut by Welles.
No.
But based on his instructions,
his notes
in the 58-page
which, by the way, are extremely detailed. So it wasn't like there was a lot of wiggle room and extrapolating as to what he may have wanted. So
that's
absolutely
right.
true.
Now, by the way, the 58-page memo is included in this Blu-ray.
Yep.
In a little tiny booklet.
Yep.
Which is key.
Outstanding.
Anyway, 3 versions of the film. One is the reconstructed version, the other is the theatrical version, and the other is a preview version, which was created before its actual release and does include some of Welles' instructions from the 58-page memo. So you get 3 different versions of the film. You get a couple of feature commentaries, and it's great. It's a must-buy. Touch of Evil, Double Indemnity, must-buys.
I will tell you what else I think is a must-buy is Once on Blu-ray. Once finally makes it.
I love this
Isn't
film
this a
so
great
much.
film?
I love this film so much. I actually bought the region-free version.
I know. This is finally out from Fox on Blu-ray. It is such a delightful movie. Tons of special features here, commentaries, by John Carney who directed it, and obviously the 2 actors. Featurettes. It's just really, really great. And not a great looking film per se. It was made for like $1.50, and they shot it on digital, and in about 18 seconds. So it's not, you're not going to like get it on Blu-ray and go, oh my gosh, it's a cinematography Oscar winner. It's not even close. It's still a grungy, dirty looking little ultra low budget Irish film.
Love it.
However, that's what plays to its strengths because it's such a heartfelt, soulful movie. When they sing those songs live on camera, it rips you apart, doesn't it?
It's the best.
It's amazing.
I absolutely love this movie. I absolutely, unreservedly love this movie.
Became a hit on Broadway. They went and made a Broadway version of it. Which I know, but
Now, why don't you tell everybody about John Carney's latest film?
Well, that was what I was going to get to because John Carney made a new film, which is it's like it got standing ovations at Toronto. It was Toronto, wasn't it first Toronto and then Sundance, and people were just going nuts for it. And the Weinstein Company picked it up, and it's called Can a Song Save Your Life, which is the coolest title in the world. Because, to me, the beauty of that title is it's a question. And it's a question, clearly the movie answers is yes. But then you ask another question, which is why? And another question, which is how?
Spock.
Oh, it's fascinating. It's just like it lights a fuse, and it just gets your mind aflutter, and it's so interesting, and it's so memorable. And, of course, the marketing buffoons over at Weinstein, which I normally admire. Weinstein normally is like cream of the crop when it comes to marketing any movie. I don't know what brain surgeon over there said, yeah, I don't know about that title. It might be a little confusing. Let's give it something utterly and completely negligible and generic like Begin Again. Yeah, that sounds like 950 other movies ever made. No one will ever remember that title. I haven't been able to remember that. Begin Again. What the hell does that mean? Begin Again.
It's about somebody who begins again.
Whatever.
They were something, and now they're not something.
Oh my gosh. It's the stupidest thing ever. If there's any chance right now to get all the one sheets you've printed up for Begin Again, burn them. Just burn them. Go back to the original title. Can a Song Save Your Life? It's the only title that works. It's insane. Who are these people? Fire them. Whoever sat in a meeting and said, I think we should change the title from Can a Song Save Your Life? Because, people gave this movie standing ovations with the original title, and we can't have that. So we need to just bury it in the middle of summer with something so just maudlin and generic that no one will go see it. Horrible decision. I hope it still does well, but there it is. We got some Criterions this week, too, Mark.
By the way, wait a second.
What?
You realize what's coming out in Criterion in July.
You're going to keep everybody hanging on. All right, what's coming out?
The Big Chill.
I know. Right?
And Pickpocket.
I know. I didn't expect that one. Big Chill. I think Big Chill everybody expected, because when they released their little doodle at the the famous doodle, everybody looked at that, and the one that everybody picked out, they're like, I bet the Big Chill is coming. It's pretty great.
That doodle is pretty clever.
It's great. That's brilliant. Every year, it's one of the things I look forward to the most every year. Well, here's what we got this week from Criterion. We got Don Siegel's Riot in Cell Block 11 from 1954, dual format DVD and Blu-ray. Don Siegel, one of the original heavy-hitting, just bruiser directors, one of the guys who's really pioneered the modern-day action film, especially cop film. We all know him primarily, obviously, from his Eastwood stuff, notably Dirty Harry. But in 1954, Riot in Cell Block 11 was this just blew everyone's mind at the time. This is one of the original penitentiary movies, and it was inspired actually by real actual prison uprisings. And it's shot on location in Folsom, and it's a gritty movie from 1954. I think it's right up there with On the Waterfront and a lot of those other early 50s films that just kind of changed the whole dynamic of movies from the 1940s. Tons and tons of stuff here. The movie is a 2K digital restoration, which is just gorgeous. Has great mono audio on the Blu-ray, totally lossless. Audio commentary from a film scholar named Matthew Bernstein, which is very, very good. Excerpts from Siegel's autobiography that are read by his son. Excerpts from a 1953 NBC radio documentary on prisons, which is pretty chilling, to be honest, because things have only gotten worse. And it's just on and on and on. It's just great stuff. Really, really wonderful. There's also an excerpt from 1974, a tribute to Siegel by Sam Peckinpah, of all people. And then we also have from 1925 the Carl Theodor Dreyer silent era masterpiece, Master of the House, in a dual format, Blu-ray and DVD. Dreyer is, of course, an acquired taste. If you're a fan of any of his stuff, particularly the Passion of Joan of Arc, you understand that his whole Danish, avant-garde approach to silent cinema is very unusual and not easily digested. But this was a bit of a commercial sidebar to a lot of his other stuff. It really was a very successful film, and it is, of all things, a comedy. A comedy about a housewife and her nanny who kind of play a whole farcical game on her horrible husband. And it's an unusual film for him, but it is still a little bit of an unusual movie. And then at the very end here, I wanted to make mention of Breaking the Waves. This is a new dual format Blu-ray and DVD set.
I love this movie. I admit it.
Of the Lars von Trier film from 1996, yes. Which Mark and a lot of other people really love. And which, are you ready for this? I don't think you know this.
You hate it.
That year, this film was not only not in my top 10 list, I listed this film as officially, and I was not kidding. I did not do this to be some kind of sensationalistic douchebag like a lot of people do, like, 12 Years a Slave is the worst movie of the year, whoever the idiots were that were doing that. I mean, I honestly, I called this the worst film of 1996, and I still believe that. I truly despise this movie. I hate every solitary thing about it. It is a wretched, contemptible, self-indulgent pile of excrement. I hate this movie, and I say this with no reservation whatsoever. Of course, Von Trier is all the rage right now again with his 4-hour, 2-part, in Nymphomaniac, which I tried watching. I swear, I tried watching 45 minutes of it. I just thought, you know what? I got like laundry to fold. I have more important things to do. No, I was watching it on FlixFling.
What?
I was watching it streaming on FlixFling.
What is FlixFling?
FlixFling's a streaming service.
You made that up.
I'm dead serious. Dead serious.
It's
a streaming service called FlixFling. They sent me a code, and they're like, "You want to watch Nymphomaniac? Here's a press code." And I was like, "All right, what the hell?"
1 and 2?
Yeah, it's 1 and 2.
Can you send me the links?
I think they're codes that are like locked to me somehow.
They're not locked to you. It's just a password.
Sure. Here on our show, I'll go. Yeah, I'll pass it to you, and I'll give you a bag of cocaine with it too.
Wait, so you watched on your computer?
Yeah.
That's lame.
Yeah. So anyway, look, 45 minutes in, I was like, are you seriously, honestly, why do I do this to myself? I hate this guy. I used to like him, and then he just lost me. Anyway,
you never liked him.
Breaking the Waves, it's like Ryan's daughter put through a meat grinder and turned into something else, and it's a horrible film. I really, really hate it. Lots of extras here, tons of extras, and good for you. Enjoy it if you enjoy the movie. And as long as I'm at it, Lars von Trier is also part of the Five Obstructions, which is out from Kino Lorber in a newly remastered edition.
How could you not like the Five Obstructions? It's such a clever thing.
It is clever. It's cute. I'm just saying, it's another von Trier thing. Everybody's trying to capitalize on the fact that everyone's talking about him again right now because of Nymphomaniac. So, yes, the Five Obstructions is very clever, and it's cute, and it is what it is. And there it is. So, his idol, of course, is the other guy in the film, Jürgen Leth, and it's whatever. I mean, it's
okay. Five Obstructions. It's what von Trier does is he takes these 5 filmmakers and he has them remake one of his short films.
A 12-minute film called The Perfect Human from 1967.
But he gives them a very specific set of rules that they have to abide by in the remaking of this short film.
It's fine.
So it's like an exercise. It's like an experiment.
It is.
Von Trier said, you got to do it without... I'm not going to give it away.
That's fine.
You got to do it in black and white, and there can't be dialogue, whatever it is. They've all got to remake it to the specifications.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting experiment. I would definitely check out Five Obstructions.
Yes, fine.
Thank you.
Good.
2 classics from Audrey Hepburn. Well, I'm not going to say classics, Wade. I'm going to say mini classics.
They are mini classics.
Kind of classics.
But they're
Sabrina,
really fun.
With Humphrey Bogart and William Holden.
Oh, not the one with your best friend Greg Kinnear?
It is not.
Okay.
You would think it would be, but it's not.
Okay.
He's
got a hit on his hands now too.
No, that show.
Is Heaven for Real?
It's getting some good reviews.
Yeah.
Put it this way: for a movie that is about the type of subject that Hollywood hates covering, which is like religion and God with any sort of sincerity.
Yeah.
It's pretty much as high-toned a cast and a behind-the-scenes crew as you could ever assemble.
True.
It's like Dean Semler, Randall Wallace.
I know, right?
It's like, the guy who shot Dances with Wolves is shooting this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Anyway, back to the movie. Sabrina is cute. Funny face. I had not seen in a long, long time. This is from 1956. This thing won an Oscar. What can you say?
Yep.
And, Hepburn plays this woman who sells books, and she's whisked off to Paris, and she becomes a supermodel. Funny Face is probably better for the ladies in the audience, if there are any ladies who listen to the show, because it's essentially Audrey Hepburn in Paris wearing all sorts of gorgeous gowns and being photographed by Fred Astaire.
Yep.
So it's cute in that sense. And the music's by George and Ira Gershwin, so it's beautiful. And Stanley Donen directed it. By the way, Stanley Donen, who you may remember from Saturn III.
Yes, exactly. That's right. That's the only thing we should know him from. Yes, that's right. Not some movie called Charade and Singing in the Rain negligible. Saturn III. That's the man. He is the man. And
then Sabrina. You know what? I never bought Humphrey Bogart as a leading man. To me, he's hard boiled, and that's it. So when he's hanging out with Audrey Hepburn, I'm just not buying it. It was never my thing. It really wasn't my thing.
But guys,
people like it.
Yeah, people like for guys who look like that, they were all over it. You know what? Twilight Time. Yay, Twilight Time is out with a whole bunch of new stuff, and we love Twilight Time. All of these are limited 3,000 units available only at screenarchives.com. Screenarchives.com. The only place you can get these. There's 3,000 of them. When they're gone, they're done. So get them while they're hot. Here are the movies. The one that's likely least known of all of these is Rita Sue and Bob 2, which is an Alan Clark film from 1987. Alan Clark was the guy who was, when Stephen Frears was like making the anti-Thatcher films, Alan Clark was making the really, really, really anti-Thatcher films. So whatever Frears and Loach and Mike Lee were doing, Alan Clark was like turning it up to 11. And
Loach and Lee have new films in Cannes.
I know, right? Gee, they're really going out on a limb there. It's like,
although Loach said it's his last fiction film.
I'm sure it is. Whatever. Look, it can at this point. Can will if Mike Lee and Ken Loach came there with just blank leader, they get into the Cannes general official selection the way that Meryl Streep gets Oscar nominations. It's just almost a joke at this point. But anyway, Alan Clark, Rita Sue and Bob 2 is actually a comedy. It's a farce. It's kind of his version of Jules and Jim. And it's good. I mean, I'm not a huge Alan Clark fan. This comes with, obviously, the usual isolated music and effects track, audio commentary with a couple of film historians, one of whom is Nick Redman, who I like quite a lot. It's funny and it's touching and it's very gritty British in that way, but it's definitely worth checking out. And then here's the good stuff. Here's the really good stuff. Mr. Hobbs Takes a Vacation. Mark, you like Mr. Hobbs Takes a Vacation? Jimmy Stewart, very funny film.
It's cute.
Comedy. It's cute. Henry Coster directed. Very, very fun. This comes with a newsreel and the original trailer, and of course the isolated score. And then brilliant used cars on Blu-ray, folks. Used cars on Blu-ray with the audio commentary track that includes Bob Gale, Kurt Russell, and Robert Zemeckis that I cannot stop listening to. The greatest audio commentary in the history of DVDs and Blu-rays.
Totally.
There has never been a better commentary.
Totally.
This is the one you want to listen to.
Totally.
It's out there. Twilight Time nailed it. They got it. They licensed it. It's right there. Thank you, Sony, for letting them use it. Blu-ray of Used Cars. Funny-ass movie. It is brilliant. Listen to the part where Kurt Russell just cannot stop laughing as they're talking about the hypoglycemic kid that the ADs were plying with sugar, and then he just took off running across a field. It's one of the funniest stories I've ever heard. I cannot stop listening to it. Kurt Russell is inconsolable. He is on the commentary. You can tell blood vessels are bursting in his face just remembering this moment. It is so funny.
The best.
Wild at Heart, David Lynch's Wild at Heart, out on Blu-ray from Twilight Time, part of the MGM 90th anniversary celebration. And this movie, was rated NC-17 at the time when it aired at Cannes. It won the Palme d'Or at Cannes. And, I'm not giving anything away here. The only reason it was rated NC-17 was because of the shot at the end with Willem Dafoe's head flying through the air. And they had to, put an extra layer of smoke over it, and that got it an R. It's the strangest thing in the world. It wasn't the sex stuff where Nick Cage is just nailing Laura Dern like there's nobody's business. No, they were okay with that. It was Willem Dafoe's head.
I'm going to make a prediction.
Are you serious?
Wait, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Now, recently, there's been the possibility of a reinvigoration of Kevin Costner's career.
I know, right?
Which I like.
I'm all for it.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm all for it.
I want him reinvigorated as a director. I think he's an outstanding director.
Yes, I agree. I believe next in line is Nicolas Cage.
I agree.
I think that
I agree.
If Matthew McConaughey can if that guy can turn it around.
I know, I hear you. Yeah.
To Oscar-winning effect.
Yeah.
Then Nick Cage.
Whatever
tax problems he has that makes him take whatever movie he can take.
If the Nick Cage from Birdie can come back, I will be thrilled.
Yes.
Wild at Heart is a film I am very, very fond of. It has all kinds of subtle connections to The Wizard of Oz. I know people are like, what? No, it does. And all of that is discussed here in the special features as well. And you know what? You got to check it out. Now, full disclosure, my wife used to work for David Lynch, so I have some connection. I've been up there to the house, quote unquote, the house, on occasion for parties and things. And it's quite an interesting world that he surrounds himself with. And Wild at Heart, not my favorite Lynch film, but I got to say, certainly one of the best. And then last, but definitely not least, also part of the MGM 90th anniversary deal, is Broadway Danny Rose. Yet another one of the Woody Allen films that Twilight Time keeps getting to license. And I have such... forget about the whole Woody Mia Farrow thing that has kind of blown up and now gone away again, thank goodness. But I have such an abiding love for this movie. I almost hesitate, but this may be my favorite Woody Allen film of all time.
No, it's not.
I kid you not. There is something about Broadway Danny Rose that I find so wonderful. It's not just the funny stuff. It's not just the shootout in the helium factory and the idea of a stuttering ventriloquist. I mean, there are so many conceptual things in here that are so outrageously funny. I just can't handle it. But something about the movie is just, there's this wonderful, gut-wrenching sadness about it. I mean, those guys were talking about him at the beginning, because the whole movie is a flashback, right? It's those guys, those old guys sitting in a diner in New York just saying, Broadway Danny Rose. You remember Broadway Danny Rose? I remember Broadway Danny Rose. Let me tell you about Broadway Danny Rose. There's stories about, and they tell the story, and then bang, you go into it. And there's something about that is just like, you go, I'll bet these guys were a dime a dozen. These kind of low-level loser agent manager types, booking agents, just barely getting by because they represented a bunch of losers. I mean, there's something about the whole concept that's just great. Beautiful black and white. It's just a great movie. Absolutely great movie. Nothing else on here other than isolated music and effects and a trailer, and there doesn't need to be. On Blu-ray, this is one of the great Woody Allen films of all time, maybe my favorite of all time. And while I'm at it really quickly, also at ScreenArchives.com, they're effectively connected to La La Land Records, and La La Land has been sending us a few of their special edition soundtracks, which are pretty cool. I got 3 here. The expanded original motion picture soundtrack for Creepshow by John Harrison. Some of All Fears, Jerry Goldsmith's score in a limited edition. Only like 1,500 copies, 3,000 units, 3,000 units of this. And then Wavelength, the more Tangerine Dream music in a limited edition. So that's 1,500 units. These are all special editions, and if you are a score fan, I recommend all 3 of these. Really cool. Again, Tangerine Dream, much better in Sorcerer, but Wavelength, interesting score. Never seen the movie, but it's cool music. Some of All Fears, of course, Jerry Goldsmith can do no wrong. And Creepshow, it's cool and creepy.
Creepshow.
Yeah,
it has Ted Danson drowning.
There you go. That's all you need.
All I need is The Pawnbroker Way. The Pawnbroker.
Oh, Pawnbroker.
Now, here's the thing with The Pawnbroker, which, by the way, has an amazing performance by Rod Steiger, nominated for an Oscar, plays a concentration camp survivor in World War II who loses all hope and pretty much takes out his misery on all the customers and pimps and prostitutes who frequent his Harlem pawn shop. And Steiger's amazing. I mean, it's the story of a guy who pretty much, based on his experiences in the death camp, has lost all hope, lives in misery, and is pretty much spiritually dead, and winds up just in Harlem running this pawn shop. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing. And what people have to remember, too, about this movie is that not only is it one of the first films, if not the first film, American film, to deal with the Holocaust, it's incredibly intense. It's not just intense for it's not even like 1964 intense. It's like 2014 intense. This movie is intense today.
It is.
And it's also a bit historic because this was one of the first films, if not the first film, to really stick to the production code. Now,
it was. It really was.
In this film, there is a scene of Rod Steiger's wife in flashback, I believe it's flashback, exposing her breasts. Mm-hmm. Now, at the time, that was a big deal. Production code would not allow for that.
Yep.
And, in fact, the Catholic Legion of Decency condemned the movie. Mm-hmm. And the production code, the motion picture production code, this film was going to be unreleasable until that cut was made. But in a move that really helped turn Hollywood away from the production code and really had them say, you know what, screw the production code, we're going to release these movies anyway, they got some sort of a release from the production code where the production code said, look, we believe we are going to give this movie an exception. We're going to say it is an artistic, depiction of the female body based on what the character's going through and the themes of the movie. So we will give this movie an exception. So you can show these breasts in this movie.
Yep.
And that was really one of the first times that the production code actually did an about face.
I know.
And gave the movie an exception. So that helped turn Hollywood away from the production code. And so The Pawnbroker not only was a great film on its own, but it also helped end the stranglehold that the production code had on all the scripts and movies coming out of Hollywood.
Sure did. Legendary.
Yes,
legendary.
The Pawnbroker classic. Sidney Lumet, by the way, directed that.
And then the last set of older movies, classic movies, we got a bunch from the Warner Archive collection, available at warnerarchive.com. And one of them actually is the earlier version of a film that we talked about a few weeks ago, also from Warner Archive, which was the later version of The Last of Mrs. Cheyney, Cheyney, not to be confused with anybody who used to be Vice President of the United States. That was the Joan Crawford version, and the original version is the Norma Shearer version, which is just as good, in many ways might even be better, along with Basil Rathbone. That is out now as well. Beautiful black and white transfer, actually, even though it's a DVD-R. It's like gorgeous looking. And then we also have Norma Shearer and Robert Taylor in Her Cardboard Lover, also with George Sanders and Elizabeth Patterson. And that's kind of this is a lot more generic of the era, but Norma Shearer is always just really wonderful as a leading lady, just absolutely gorgeous. Robert Taylor is always fun. And then a couple of more recent films that are not so great. Kurt Russell in Search for the Gods, kind of a cheesy 70s era thing, and an early Michelle Pfeiffer thing, The Children Nobody Wanted. I really don't know what this movie's about. I was just staring at Michelle Pfeiffer the whole time, who's just so ageless and wonderful. So it's about something, foster home or something, but Michelle Pfeiffer's gorgeous in it. And then lastly, one of those rare Warner Archive Collection Blu-rays, Mick Jagger in performance.
Look at that.
Man, I didn't expect this one. Really didn't. And, such an unusual film because it was co-directed by Nicholas Roeg along with Donald Cammell. I don't know what Donald Cammell would have had to do in it. Nicholas Roeg basically is all over this movie. So, but I got to tell you, man, this is a strange, twisted, cool, weird movie. And it screams 1970 all over it. And Mick is great in it. He's cool.
Oh, yeah, he is cool. His movie career never really...
It never did. And I'm not quite sure why. Because he's good.
Like Roger Daltrey. He tried to do
I know.
Movie career too. Anyway, now, Wade, we have an interview with Stephen Frears, the great Stephen Frears. Now, should we talk about Philomena before
Talk about it first.
After?
Talk about it first.
Now,
and then let's go into Frears.
Philomena was nominated for 4 Oscars, and including Best Picture. And it's a terrific film. I don't really want to tell you much about it, only because there's some twists and turns I do not want to give away. Mm-hmm. All I'll say is that Judi Dench plays Philomena. She had given her son up for adoption 50 years earlier, and now with the help of a former BBC reporter played by Steve Coogan, wants to find her son, who she gave up for adoption. I will not tell you whether she finds the son, whether or not she finds the son. It's all part of the story, and it's all very surprising.
Steve Coogan wrote this.
And Steve Coogan, he shows some colors here that we had not seen before from him.
That's right.
And I like it.
It's great.
Because the thing with Stephen Frears is Stephen Frears, and this is what he does, there's something very mainstream feeling about his movies, yet there's so much emotion and resonance to them that they're not these dark, deep, depressing movies. There's something bright and mainstream about the look of them. And a lot of that, he talks about some of that. It's actually quite funny in the interview. You'll see. But the thing I was thinking when I was watching this, because I've seen so many Frears films, I think I have him down. He's not one of those directors where you go, oh, that's a Stephen Frears move. Oh, that's Stephen Frears. He has no trademark thing. He just goes and he does the work, and he does it incredibly well. And as much as I've seen his movies, I can't get ahead of him. There are moments in this movie where I was like, oh, you son of a, you set me up. And now I'm crying again. You got me. I should have seen that coming, and you got me. And he's just amazing. He just impresses the hell out of me endlessly. All right, without any further ado, then here is Stephen Frears.
Yes, Stephen. Hi. Well, congratulations on yet another extraordinary success with an independent film that I think kind of came from the back of the pack during award season. I think Philomena just surprised all the big studios in a huge way. You do like to mix it up. And when you made Philomena, did you anticipate that it would become kind of a big award season contender like it did?
Well, I thought Judy would get nominated. But the whole thing is, no, I mean, you don't expect the success it's had.
Yeah.
You don't expect it to take the money it's taken.
How were things different on this film versus Mrs. Henderson Presents? Mrs. Henderson Presents is easily one of my favorite films of the past 15 or 20 years. I just thought it was one of your best, one of her best. An extraordinary film. Philomena, very different, smaller, closer to contemporary, and her character obviously less imposing and much more demure. And did all of those things factor into a different relationship, a different working situation?
Well, it didn't factor into a different working relationship, but you sort of deal with those things instinctively, don't you? It was about a woman who was about two sort of quite modest people. You sort of, but did I ever think about it? Not particularly. It just seemed natural.
Talk for a second too about the screenplay. Were you and Steve Coogan friends or acquaintances prior to working on this film?
No, I'd met him, but not really. No.
What was you've obviously worked with Peter Morgan and some of the great screenwriters in the world. How did this screenplay sort of hit you when you read it? It seems a lot wittier and yet a lot more acerbic in many respects than what you normally work with. What was your initial reaction to reading the script?
Well, I must have been interested, or I wouldn't have got any further. I immediately found it interesting, and then as we went along, you find more and more that. I remember discovering about Steve's lapsed Catholicism and strengthening all of that in the film. So you get sort of hooked, really, like a fish, and you get more and more interested to the point where you actually have to make the bloody thing. That's all. And it's easier. But, the qualities you see in it, again, I sort of don't terribly think about them. It's said on, that's how the people are, and you just think, this is what feels right.
Were you very familiar? Because I would assume that the story of Philomena Lee was much more commonly known in the UK, and certainly.
I never heard about. I didn't know who she was. I didn't know the children for babies were sold. I didn't know any of that.
Interesting.
There were these things called Magdalene laundries because there was another film, wasn't there? So
yeah.
In a sense, I knew virtually nothing except that there were these convents in which, brutal things happened.
Did you rely entirely, pretty much, on the screenplay, or did you go back and speak with Philomena herself and do any additional work, kind of to?
Philomena was around.
Okay.
She was there if you wanted to talk to her. And in fact, I was she was in Hollywood over the Oscar season, and she kept telling stories. I said, "Well, if you told me that, I'd have put it in the film." But I'm not a Catholic. I know nothing about Catholicism. My main source, I suppose, was Steve, who was brought up Catholic. So you learn as you go along.
Yeah. What was the overall process of the film like versus some of your other films? Was this given the fact that it certainly seemed to be less logistically imposing than something like Mrs. Henderson or The Queen, or did it come with different challenges?
No, the challenge is always just to get it right, get the writing right. Mm-hmm. It required whatever it required. It wasn't particularly complicated or exhausting. You just had to get things right the whole time. And that mainly consisted of getting the script right, getting the writing right.
So there was still more work after the story first came to you, the script first came to you. You were involved in.
You go on writing the script till you finish the film.
Right. What when you finished the film? Looking back on it, I assume every single film project the Coen brothers are very famously said that at a certain point it stops being the film that you wrote and it just becomes the film that it is. And you have to sort of acclimate yourself to the idea that whatever you envision when you start shooting, it becomes something very different by the time everyone contributes and all of the various energies of the universe play into it. Did the film itself wind up being in any way significantly different from what you originally imagined? Better? Just different?
Just clearer and clearer what you're doing. And by the end, you think, oh, I see, yes, that's what it is. It just gets clearer.
Yeah.
So it's a sort of steady progress towards the light, as it were. And things that were sort of, it's always a bit vague in my head when I'm shooting it. And then slowly you sort it out and think, oh, no, I see now exactly where I was going. I never quite know at the beginning.
So that sounds like post-production is oftentimes in the editing is where you find the movie. Is that a fair to say?
Yes, but of course you've done a lot of things instinctively which turn out to be right. I've also done things instinctively which turn out to be wrong. But you Picasso said it's always an accident, and then you sort of somehow sort it out. But it's that's a movement towards getting your head clear.
I would assume that's not a something that you typically tell the studio executives, because that.
Yes, no. They always think it's very, very clear, but of course it isn't. And you
right.
Don't know, I better not tell them that.
The thing that I find so striking in the film, and which everyone commented on, was that the chemistry between Steve and Judy is just so incredibly natural. And they didn't really have a relationship professionally before the film. Was there any indication? Sorry?
Well, in the sense, you're taking a guess. I thought they'd be very good together.
Yeah.
So, I guess I got it, and they adored each other, so I guess I got it right. Sometimes you get it wrong. Well,
it is extraordinary the way that they just there are moments in the film which where I think what makes the scene work is the fact that it's not what they're saying to each other, it's what they're not saying to each other. You sort of catch their thoughts in a certain moment.
Some days you're lucky.
I think your career is built on a lot more than luck. There's certainly. I mean, but you talk about instinct. How much are you really instinctual in the way that you work?
Well, as much as I possibly can be. If I had my way, the whole thing would come from your unconscious, but it doesn't. As much as possible. I mean, it's a sort of odd combination of instinct and intelligence and experience.
Well, it is. I'm thrilled that it's coming out on DVD and Blu-ray, and that everyone who missed it, shame on them for doing so during award season, can discover it now. I think it's going to have a very, very long and successful life, well beyond the theaters. And you're right now. We're talking to you in London. You're finishing up yet another film. You're the hardest working man in show business by far. Could you say anything about the film you're currently working on?
No, it's about Lance Armstrong. It's not a biopic, but it's about the doping years.
Right.
It's about the years he was in Europe, 93 to 2009.
And Lance Armstrong is being played by
Ben Foster, who's brilliant.
Brilliant. Well, he was certainly outstanding in Lone Survivor, and he had a big year last year. So once again you've landed right on an actor who's having a great moment. Stephen, thank you so much for speaking with us, and good luck both on the home release of Philomena and on the Lance Armstrong film going forward. And we'll talk to you hopefully next year when you're nominated yet again.
That'll be the day. Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Got him to laugh, right? I got him to laugh. That was all I wanted to do. I just want to make just to because he was hating. You could tell he was just hating it so much. And the connection is not great with the UK and the whole thing, and so hopefully everybody was able to make the best of the difficult audio there. But hey man, he rocks. He's the guy. He's the man.
Rank these 3 Stephen Frears films from most favorite to least favorite. I'll give you 3. Ready?
Yeah.
High Fidelity.
Yep.
Dirty Pretty Things. Now I'm not giving you the usual ones.
Oh boy.
Dirty Pretty Things, High Fidelity, or The Grifters.
Oh jeez.
Which one? Most favorite to least favorite? High Fidelity, Dirty Pretty Things, The Grifters.
The Grifters is tops for me right there, just because of Annette Bening complete, just unbelievable. Annette Bening alone gets that atop for me. Then I guess Dirty Pretty Things, and then High Fidelity.
That's tough.
That's tough.
I mean,
That's
tell
really
me
tough.
that those aren't all great
Because
films.
that may be my favorite Jack Black performance is High Fidelity.
That's right.
You know, that's tough.
And
That's tough.
For me, Dirty Pretty Things, that was kind of the coming out party for Chiwetel Ejiofor, right?
That was
the first time I really kind of said,
that was the first
guy?
time anybody paid attention to him. Yeah, absolutely. All right, we got a few more newer films to get through. Better Living Through Chemistry. We're going to do these really quickly and get through these. Better Living Through Chemistry is kind of like Double Indemnity, which we talked about earlier, crossed with a little bit of Breaking Bad, and a great performance by Sam Rockwell. And it's not great, but somehow I just can't resist Sam Rockwell in it. He's just really, really good. Jane Fonda shouldn't even get billing here. She narrates the movie, and then she shows up at the end for about 16 seconds. But this is out in a Blu-ray and ultraviolet set. And worth watching, I think, just for Sam Rockwell, because he's just so good. But not necessarily worth owning. I don't think. He plays, basically a small-town pharmacist who hates his life and has an unhappy marriage, and then, a mistress enters the picture and murder enters the picture, and, you can fill in the rest. But Sam Rockwell, man, one of the most underrated actors in Hollywood. He really is.
I love him. He's great. Wait, what's not great is Labor Day. Now, Jason Reitman is going to have to figure something out because...
man, how did that tank? That's so unfortunate. I remember at award season when this was on the short list of films that everybody felt they had to see, and I contacted the studio and I was like, you guys going to send out any screeners for Labor Day? And I didn't get past Labor Day, and all I heard was, no, that's not being sent out. And I was like, well, that tells me all I need to know.
Well, they screened the heck out of it, and then, beforehand, but they didn't send out screeners.
No.
Now you have Up in the Air and Juno, two terrific films. I don't know what's happened to him since, but Labor Day is a whole other side of him because you'd think it'd be like this really edgy, dark look at this very troubled mother who takes in this escaped convict and how he changes her life and that kind of. But instead, this thing is very sugary and a little bit kind of cheesy and very sappy. And I was just very surprised. I mean, it starts out. It's got like an edgy kind of almost Hitchcockian setup, but then in the end, it just goes to these emotional places that are just completely cheeseball.
I know.
And I was just very disappointed. I just did not like where this thing went. So very melodramatic and
tough year for Josh Brolin too.
Huh?
Tough year for Josh Brolin too.
I know. Although he did star in an Oscar-winning Best Picture.
Yeah, but this was supposed to be like a big season for him. 2 films and they both tanked, and he's not he's not pulling his weight as a leading man.
No,
he really isn't.
To me, he seems like a really, really strong B player.
Yeah, he is. He's an ensemble guy.
Like
really
if something started like Leonardo DiCaprio and Josh Brolin, that'd be super cool.
Yeah. Barefoot is a remake of a German film that I went through hell to actually try to find and see and could not. And the German film, I'm going to assume, is probably a lot better. Just because the casting is more interesting. The idea is Scott Speedman and Evan Rachel Wood in a very strange romance. He's a guy from he's the son from this very wealthy family and successful family who should be doing better, right? And he's kind of the maverick, the black sheep or whatever. And he gets in. He falls in with this woman who's really messed up, played by Evan Rachel Wood, who basically is like was kept in a cave her whole life. Just never has no connection to the real world. Her mom died, and she's just this weird little waif-like thing. And it's an unusual romance. Has some okay supporting performances, but Scott Speedman is not the guy. Evan Rachel Wood, very, very good, but he's not the guy. So check out the German film and let me know what you think of it. Music by Michael Penn, for what that's worth.
I liked Michael Penn.
Yeah.
For a while, he had a solo career for a while, and he was cool.
And then The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, which was in development forever. Forever this movie was in development and was attached to have Jim Carrey star for a while. And then finally it went on ice for a couple of years and came back as a Ben Stiller vehicle with Ben Stiller directing it and starring in it. And this is out on Blu-ray and DVD and Ultraviolet. And I got to say, this is one of the more ambitious films from last year, but it's like, despite all of its ambition and all of its innovative, it's a very different take, obviously, on the Danny Kaye film. I mean, it's nothing like the original Danny Kaye film. It's much more existential and philosophical, and it uses digital effects in really innovative ways. But somehow, didn't you feel like it just missed the mark a little bit?
Yeah, it did. You know what it is?
And I can't put my finger on it. I feel like it should have had everything clicking on all cylinders, and I don't know why they didn't. I don't know. And that frustrates me.
I don't buy Ben Stiller as a guy who's going to make me rethink my life.
Yeah.
I see Ben Stiller as a guy who does Tropic Thunder.
Yeah.
And cracked me up.
Yeah, true.
He's just not that director to me.
Well, anyway.
And I think he was a little too enamored of all the green screen special effects opportunities that the movie presented.
Well, it's some wonderful behind-the-scenes stuff on here. It's a gorgeous-looking Blu-ray. It really gives you a lot of insight into how the film was made, which is very, very interesting. But somehow just misses the mark. Worth seeing, definitely worth seeing. I don't want to call it a failure. It's just kind of a near miss, but still, it is. It is what it is.
All right, wait. Let's talk about Ice Cube and Kevin Hart in Ride Along.
Oh yeah,
very popular movie, terrible movie. That's it.
It's trying. This very obvious what this is trying to do. It's sort of trying to do the buddy cop thing, maybe with a little bit of Training Day, maybe a little Training Day angle on it, a little bit of a 48 hours. Everybody's trying to make Kevin Hart the new Eddie Murphy. I don't know if he's the new Eddie Murphy, but he's definitely the new Kevin Hart. And I've always liked Kevin Hart. I've always thought he was really funny. But I gotta say, watching this, I'm a little worried that his shtick is really, really shallow.
Lame.
Don't you think?
He's the next Wayans brother to me. There's nothing there.
Well, he's a funny guy when he shows up for 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes in a movie is like the other guy. When he's suddenly like a co-star, like a top liner, like name above the title, it just feels like he's got like 4 gears. And he keeps recycling those gears over and over, and I'm starting to get worried.
I don't see it. I don't get it. Don't get it. Don't see it.
I mean, his stand-up is hilarious. I love his stand-up. I think it's great. But he needs better material. All right, with that, we are done. We will be back next week with a lot of awesome stuff. And wish me well, because I got film week next week. So I got like nine horrible movies opening next week. I got to see. I'm not even sure I'm going to see the remake of District B13.
There's a remake of District B13?
You didn't know that?
There's not.
Paul Walker's in it. There's Steel...
Oh, is that Brick Mansions?
Brick Mansions.
Is that what that is?
That's what that is. Yes. Luc Besson co-wrote the script.
Well, that doesn't mean much nowadays.
Yeah, well...
It used to.
I know. Luc Besson writes the script for like 17 movies a year. It makes me wonder exactly what he's doing. Anyway, we're back next week.